This is Mac OS Ken.
Sort of positive news from Foxconn, yet another regulatory issue for Apple in India, and a slew of Critics' Choice nominations for Apple TV Plus. It is Wednesday, the 6th of December, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. There seems to be good news for Apple, for consumer electronics at large, or both, coming out of Foxconn. Yesterday, Seeking Alpha had the contract manufacturer raising its outlook for the current quarter. On the firm's expectations, the report said revenue performance in the first 2 months of the fourth quarter was slightly higher than expected. Therefore, the outlook for the fourth quarter should be better than the original guidance for significant growth, according to the company. Time to pop the bubbly? Well, always. Though the celebration should probably be tempered with an eye on recent history. According to the piece, revenue was down in November versus October for cloud and networking products, smart consumer electronics products, components, and other products. That is one category. And computing products. Some of the fall from October had to do with customers stocking up ahead of the holiday season, according to Foxconn, as well as conservative spending by businesses and continued weakness in personal computers. So where, you may be asking, is the good news? Well, the ground for that was laid a year ago. For year over year, says Seeking Alpha, revenue in smart consumer electronics products and components and other products showed strong growth year over year. The site reminds readers shipments a year ago were impacted by the pandemic in Zhengzhou. Thus, revenue from smart consumer electronics products showed growth year over year in November 2023. While it's hard to be certain what the numbers mean for consumer electronics at large, things seem to be good for Apple, or at least not bad for Apple. A piece from 9 to 5 Mac points out that Apple makes up about half of Foxconn's revenue. If Foxconn is doing better than expected, and Apple makes up about half of what Foxconn does, seems likely that things are going well for Apple. You know the way Apple leaves older models of iPhone on the market as a lower-priced entry for would-be buyers? Yeah, one of the ways they can keep the price low, and lower it even, is by not changing a blessed thing about the older models. And that is about to be a problem in India, it seems. According to a piece from Engadget, India has rules in place that will require all smartphones sold in the country to have a USB-C charging port by June of 2025. That's old models as well as new. While Apple obviously has no problem with USB-C going forward, going backward is not a thing the company is interested in doing. In fact, the piece has Apple telling Indian officials that it can't change the design of earlier iPhones to include a USB-C port. While the company could stop selling older models in India, they tend to sell well there, thanks to their lower price. According to Engadget, Apple reportedly argued that unless it gains an exemption from pre-iPhone 15 models, it will need 18 months beyond the end of next year, i.e. until mid-2025, to comply with the regulation. Engadget says the request is presumably to give Apple enough time to phase out Lightning ports on older iPhones. Really, though, doesn't that sound like about when iPhone 14 would age out of sale anyway? Not that it's all about Apple sales. There are also production targets, job numbers, and investments agreed to between the company and the country. According to Reuters, according to Engadget, Apple executives told Indian officials late last month that were the rule to be applied to older iPhones, the company would not be able to meet production targets as set out by the country's Production-Linked Incentive, or PLI, program. No word in the piece on an official appeals process, nor on next steps. Speaking of older hardware, if you're sporting a first-generation iPhone SE or a second-generation 12.9-inch iPad Pro, you may want to consider a case or go easy on the device or devices. A piece from Apple Insider says both have hit Apple's list of vintage products, reserved for items that have been off the market for more than 5 years but less than 7. Vintage products are eligible for service or repair from Apple or Apple-authorized service providers, provided that is, parts are available for the service or repair. So, consider a case or just go easy on the device. Or break it and buy a new one. I don't know. I'm not your dad. Apple's OS builders are looking to wrap up for the holidays. Mac Rumors ran a few pieces Tuesday saying that release candidates for iOS and iPadOS 17.2, macOS Sonoma 14.2, watchOS 10.2, and tvOS 17.2 have all been made available to developers. While there are plenty of known features on the way, this week's release candidates brought a few surprises, or stuff I hadn't heard about anyway. For example, another report from Mac Rumors says not only will iOS 17.2 bring Qi2 support, it'll add that support as far back as 2021's iPhone 13. I know that's only 2 years ago, but 2 years ago is like 10 years ago in tech, so surprise. You can probably piece together what Qi2 is, but just in case, Mac Rumor says Qi2 is a next-generation Qi wireless charging technology that incorporates a magnetic power profile. Qi2 devices will work like accessories that support MagSafe using magnets for alignment and speedier charging. Interestingly, the piece indicates that your iPhone 15, if you have one, is already Qi2 compatible. Now all we need are Qi2 chargers. The first Qi2 accessories are set to launch during the holiday season, which is kind of a head-scratcher since we are knee-deep in the holiday season. Less a surprise, more a welcome news thing. Yet another piece from Mac Rumors has word of a fix in iOS 17.2. According to that, Apple's release notes say this week's release candidate addresses a bug that was preventing some iPhones from wirelessly charging on the wireless charging pads included in some vehicles. It addresses that bug by fixing it. At least that's the hope. Fingers crossed. One anticipated feature will not be making the cut anytime soon, it seems. A piece from 9to5Mac says the Apple Music collaborative playlist feature, which had been present in early rounds of iOS 17.2 betas, has been pulled. It actually dropped off in the operating system's 4th beta and has not made a return with the release candidate. 9to5Mac says code it's seen suggests that Apple pulled the feature due to concerns around abuse and spam. While the company is still working on the functionality, it looks like it won't function until sometime in 2024. Not a release candidate, but a straight-up update Tuesday for Apple's consumer video creation app, Clips. Very little to it, it seems. According to Apple's release notes, version 3.1.6 adds a new onboarding experience that guides users through setting appropriate permissions for camera, microphone, and photo library access. The update is free, as is the application. You can find version 3.1.6 of Clips now in the App Store. Congratulations to fellow podcaster Julia Louis-Dreyfus. A piece from Mac Rumors says her podcast, Wiser Than Me with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, has been named 2023 Show of the Year by Apple Podcasts. Maybe next year, macOS Ken Nation. Maybe next year. Amidst a number of Apple TV Plus cancellations, welcome news of a returning show. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release Tuesday saying the Isaac Asimov sci-fi saga Foundation has been picked up for a 3rd season. I cannot tell you how bothered I would have been if that hadn't happened. But why wouldn't it? since its global debut, says Apple TV Plus. Foundation has been broadly celebrated as visually stunning, breathtaking, a must-see TV event, and one of TV's most expansive sci-fi epics. The series continues to receive global praise, and Season 2 holds a 100% certified fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. No word in the release on when the third season will hit. It was nearly 2 years between the first season and the second, but the go-ahead just given for Season 3. I'm not sure which I am expecting first, a second version of Apple's mixed reality headset, or a third season of Foundation. But I do look forward to both. And finally today, it may be time to eye another shelf for award season. Apple Insider says Apple TV Plus has taken home 16 nominations for the television side of the 2024 Critics' Choice Awards. They include 6 for the morning show, including Best Drama Series, 4 for Lessons in Chemistry, including Best Limited Series, 3 for Shrinking, including Best Comedy Series, 1 for Ted Lasso, 1 for Truth Be Told, and 1 for The Crowded Room. If you're wondering where Killers of the Flower Moon went, the aforementioned nominations were TV only. Apple Insider says nominations for the film categories will be revealed on the 13th of December. The Critics' Choice Awards themselves will be handed out on Sunday, the 14th of January. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.